Welcome to the How of Business with your host, Henry Lopez, the podcast that helps you start, run, and grow your small business. And now, here is your host.
Welcome to this episode of the How of Business. This is Henry Lopez. My guest today is Tommy Mello. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Very excited.
Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Tommy Mello is here with me today to share a little bit about his inspiring entrepreneur journey, how he went from $50,000 in debt to over $30 million in business in just 7 years. We'll explore that a little bit. And his experiences and insights on the home services business. That's an industry, of course, that is highly in demand, somewhat recession-proof in my experience, lots of different opportunities there. And so we'll get his insights there because that's where he specializes. To get more information about this show, The How of Business, including the show notes page for this episode, you'll want to go there for links for certain things that Tommy is going to share today, opportunities, and also to learn more about my one-on-one and group coaching programs. Just go to thehowofbusiness.com. Also, wherever you're listening to this episode, if you'll please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. So Tommy Mello is a highly experienced and successful home services industry entrepreneur. His current service business is about to cross the $220 million mark in revenue with over 700 employees across 20 states. But Tommy understands that we all must start somewhere, and so that's where we're going to explore as well. And overcoming tremendous challenges early in his life gave him the motivation to help other business owners succeed just like he did. And that's the main reason that he created the Home Service Expert brand. And he shares so many learning resources in the Home Services Expert podcast. So he's a podcaster as well. And events like the Freedom Event, which is coming up, and we'll chat about that in this episode. Tommy's been published in top publications like Forbes, the Huffington Post, Entrepreneur Inc. magazine, and is the author of several books, including Home Service Millionaire and Elevate, Build a Business Where Everybody Wins. Tommy, I think you're in the Phoenix area, correct?
Yep. Right near the airport is where A1 Garage Doors headquarters is.
I see. And you live in that area primarily?
Paradise Valley, that's right next to Scottsdale.
Yeah, wonderful area. Love it. I would live there if it wasn't because I need the ocean so much. So I'm in Florida, but otherwise it's such a wonderful place. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate being here.
Hey, let's start kind of a little bit at the beginning. Obviously, we won't get to all of it here in the time that we have, but especially this story, the headline, from $50,000 in debt to over $30 million. Will you take us there briefly? Where were you then and how did you get into that position that you were in, being in that much debt?
Yeah, so, my parents got a divorce when I was 7. I'm from Michigan, suburbs of Detroit, Sterling Heights. And mom and dad worked hard. I mean, mom worked 3 jobs to keep us in our school. So at a very young age, I needed to learn how to work. Shoveling snow, mowing lawns, eventually washing dishes when I turned 12. So I've always had this kind of gene of being a hard worker. No matter what I do, I want to win. I mean, that's just in my DNA. My dad raised me. If I got in second place, we didn't get excited. Like you're winning, you're going to win. So that's kind of how I was raised, and didn't know a whole lot about business. I really didn't, although I thought I did at the time. I knew how to form an LLC and get an EIN number. And I didn't know much about 1099 versus W-2. I didn't know much about I knew a lot about the hospitality industry. I knew how to bartend. I knew how to wait tables. I knew how to bus tables. But that was a really good industry to come up in because I learned how to get along with people, even though I knew they weren't going to tip me. And I learned different ethnicities and just being nice to people and smiling no matter what and getting along with my fellow workers at the time. So fell into the garage door space. One of my roommates said, hey, man, I'm managing this garage door business. And by the way, cumulatively, all 3 of us paid $700 rent. It was a hole in the ground shack. My one roommate paid $300 for the master, and me and my other roommate paid $200 each. And so I was painting garage doors, and I got $100 a door. He said you might paint 2 or 3 a day. I got to where I could paint 10 a day. I was a systems guy. I figured out how to paint 10 in a day. And I'm meeting up with all these garage door guys all the time that are killing it, 2006. And me and my other roommates said, hey, we could do a garage door business. Let's start one. So we did, and started it from the ground up. A1 fell first in the phone book. One of the last years the phone book was relevant before Google really took over. And we decided, let's just give this thing a go. And I had a landscaping company. I was still bartending. I was flipping cars. I knew how to make money.
Yeah.
Like, I could outwork anybody. I could still go out and party. I could still date chicks, no kids, no wife. I mean, I just was a workaholic, but I still had a lot of fun.
That was all,
And
back then it was all solopreneur, right? You hadn't leveraged yourself yet, or did you have
no, not at all.
teams? Okay. Yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea what leadership meant. So 2010, my roommate slash business partner slash best friend happened to be a big old pothead, lots of weed. So I was like, dude, you don't work as hard as me. You're lazy. You could take on the debt and keep the business and I'll start another one, or you give me the business and I'll take on all the debt. So there I found myself $50,000 in debt. He moved to Montana with really a couple 1099 employees, no one good. And I needed somebody I could trust. I had a plan. So I convinced my mom and stepdad to move to Phoenix. And
Wow.
they did. And I trusted them. They worked their butts off. 2014, found a really good general manager slash integrator. 2017, started a podcast for no particular reason, except I had something to say. And I knew I could actually get some talented people that have been where I want to go. So I got lucky. I kind of fell into building a personal brand, found Service Titan, convinced them to let the only service business outside of HVAC, plumbing, electrical in, which was garage doors, and met this guy in the podcast. His name's Al Levy. And he wrote a book called The 7 Power Contractor on my wall there. And he started working with us, and he taught us how to build manual standard operating procedures, dial in the price book, performance pay, how to delegate properly, org chart, depth chart, how to structure the building, how to really handle inventory. Connected me with a few people. I learned a lot more on understanding a balance sheet and income statement. I got a master's degree, but we looked at annual reports of like massive Fortune 500 companies, never learned GAAP accounting in just a small home service business. Right. And just found myself the dumbest guy in the room everywhere I went. And I'd ask a lot of questions and I'd go implement. I'd ask more questions, I'd implement. Yesterday, I've got a group called Garage Door Freedom and Home Service Freedom. Garage Door Freedom, I had about 50 guys on the call yesterday, and I was just explaining to them all the times I fell down. Like, I'm an overnight success of 2 decades. Everybody says, man, it must be easy to be you. And I'm like, man, if you knew the weekends, the relationships, the holidays, the police that were involved with theft and the trucks flipping and the writing checks off of a loan from my mortgage to make payroll and living in the apartments for 4 years where my technicians were training, and just bridge loans that with the SBA that fell through. Like, it's a story of horror and triumph at the same time. So I got big balls, man. If you ask my stepdad, how did Tommy grow this business? He'd be like, dude, the guy has big balls. He's not afraid of anything. He figures it out.
But what drove you though, Tommy? What kept you from saying, you know what, let me just go get a job. I know I can do well there, or something else, or move on to a different industry. What do you think drove you to stick to it?
You know, I've always had this vision. I mean, people always ask, did you know you would be potentially a multi-billionaire? And I was like, yeah, I did. I've always maintained the vision, this ability to just focus on the good instead of the bad. And there were setbacks. I fell down on my face so many times, but I just got back up, and I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, there's apparently 2 billion stars in our solar system, and there's apparently, I'm talking about the galaxy, 4 trillion galaxies. I'm like, my problems aren't that big. You know, I focused on what was good. I focused on what was going well. There's 2 things I've been very good at, and that's taking care of people around me, my coworkers, and that's probably one of the better marketers on the planet. I'm obsessed with marketing, and the biggest difference that I do now is instead of marketing for new clients, I market for A-plus players because I've realized that old Jim Collins book, From Good to Great, I've stacked the deck with the right people on the bus that actually enjoy everything they do and that I don't like to do. And I think this is where most businesses fail. They're the smartest guy in their company or gal. And that's okay because I was that person at one point, but I'll probably outgrind most people, but now I out-delegate people. And I think there's something to be said about that because even the influencers, they're like, I outwork people. I work weekends. I'll work later. I get less sleep. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not scalable. That's not
but
real
you had
scale.
to learn that yourself, though. You had to
Oh,
learn
yeah.
that yourself. Yeah.
I went through the school of hard knocks, man. Literally. Like, I've got metaphorically bruises and scars all over. Like, I can look at anything and say, remember when that happened? Like, what I know now, I could go into any industry, especially home service, and I could build more empires. And I'm 41 years old. A1 should come close to doing 300 million this year, at a bottom line of over 25%. And the greatest thing about that is I could go to a lot of HVAC companies doing that. There is no such thing as a garage door company that's even close to us, unless you're in heavy commercial with low margin or tons of new construction. And there's still no one even close to that. Not at the EBITDA, and revenues for vanity, profits for sanity. So I never cared about profit till a few years ago. And then I realized I could have both.
Yeah.
And that comes through a really, really, really strong team. And I'll tell you, I can tell you a bunch of stories about
achieving that kind of EBITDA. Sorry to interrupt. Achieving that kind of EBITDA, does it require getting to a certain scale, or is that achievable even at a small scale?
There is a lot of economies of scale. I'd say I think I could get a business north of 18% at a smaller level.
Okay.
I'd say now, because of the economies of scale, it's allowed me to find opportunities to get north of 30. I can negotiate better than anybody.
Sure.
Plus, this is going to sound vain, maybe a little cocky, but I'm Tommy Mello.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't screw people. I endorse their products. I get behind them in a big way. Like, it's like when people work with me, they know their business is going to grow. I've got a voice out there. I get behind companies and vendors I believe in. So they get behind me in a big way. And we
have some leverage there, no doubt, that you've built based on your reputation.
And that's the one thing when I shake your hand, the day which will come for everybody, those who are still alive when I die, I hope it's outside. I hope there's fireworks, not a lot of people wearing black, and it's a celebration. And I hope they say the dude kept his word. He made everybody's life a little bit better, because I think if you're either draining people or you're adding a lot of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody at my funeral, and I thought a lot about this, says, man, that guy, he just cared more. He wanted to see other people win. And it's truly, and people asked me yesterday, I was on a podcast. He said, why do you love to see people win so much? I'm like, probably because I'm selfish. Like, it gives me this, you say you're a better father for knowing me, and that you show up more for your wife, and that you're helping your employees make more money and live their dreams. Like, I take a lot of pride in that. So as much as I'd love to say I'm Mother Teresa and I love giving, I think it's a selfish reason, but I just love being a part of people's lives and saying I impacted it positively in a great way and jump them ahead and help their relationships and help their community.
Yeah, no, I get that. And not to mention that, of course, they, as far as and your staff, they make for people that are that much more productive and can contribute and help those businesses grow, right? If that's the type of people, that's how you take care of your staff.
I am looking forward to the day, not long from now, I'm working on some cool software that just helps me communicate more with the staff and know what they want more, know how they want to be gifted, because most people don't just want money. They want to learn to speak better. They want to learn to become a better leader. When I get this software done this year, I'll be able to send videos and text messages and gift cards and really, really understand their dreams in a much more organized way than I do now.
I see.
And kind of be along closer with them throughout the journey, because when you get this many coworkers, it's hard to pay attention. It was easier at 10 and 20 people than it is now at hundreds and hundreds. But I'll tell you what, you take this all away, take away the money, take away the vehicles and the houses and the nice buildings and the beautiful training center. It's who I had to become to get here. You can't take that away. I mean, you can't take away the man I had to shift into to be able to handle this. You give somebody, they win the lottery, they usually lose it all. They don't know what to do. And like, I'm just getting started. Like, I feel like as great as things have been, I'm still just barely in my infancy stage of success because I had to put in the time. You got to understand, people say it's easy for you to say, Tommy. They don't know what I'd been through. And it's not a bad story. I mean, a lot of stuff happened, but I just never dwelt on that. But I've never been married. I don't have kids. You know, I think marriage is in the near future here.
Okay.
And kids will definitely be in my future. But, you know, Bree's 25, so I got that going for me. Which is kind of weird because I'm 41. Bree is my girlfriend, and she works with me, and she is 25. Like,
got it.
Bree is 25. Bree is 25. So we got some time. I'm just going to be an old ass dad.
That's okay. You're in shape and you're staying healthy. You didn't go to college.
I did get a master's degree. 2010, when my mom moved out, I said I could kind of lean on you guys. And the master's program was one of the best things I did. Zero for education, but for networking and learning how to public speak a little bit better.
You got your bachelor's and your master's while you were also doing all of this other stuff, yeah?
Yeah, and I was pre-dental.
Why did you think you needed a formal education?
When I was younger, this is going to sound like the stupidest thing in the world, but it's the truth. I knew I was going to have kids one day, and I was always taught you go to college. And I knew I wasn't going to use my degree to move up in a career up the corporate ladder. But I never wanted and I knew I was going to be successful no matter what I did, no matter what. I knew in the bottom of my heart of hearts that dad was going to be somebody they looked up to. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I was the only one there not trying to get an advancement in a career. And they looked at me with my greasy hands coming in, smelling like grease. Like, what's wrong with this guy? And I said, you know, it's really hard to take stuff away from a guy that's already came from nothing. And that's probably been a lever of mine. But I just always said, you know, I never wanted it to be able to put it on my LinkedIn. I don't even know if I think it is on my LinkedIn, but I wanted it that when people looked at me, they said, this guy is educated. He belongs in this room. But now looking back, other than the network, I sat next to this table. It was a round table like this every night for dinner. And I learned what search engine optimization and how to make my videos rank and how to edit videos and how to really learn to be a better speaker and more about getting in the right room with the right people. Because what I learned from these people was backlinks and content. And this is a long time ago. This is 12 years ago. SEO was a lot different. Yeah. And how to get in the 7-pack back then, which was the Google local. And they taught me how to get reviews when barely any people knew reviews affected the algorithm. So a few key people in there, some really cool teachers, some really bad teachers. What I learned in the master's program was I hate tenure. I hate it. I like meritocracy. Tenure is for losers. Tenure, anybody that gives people promotions based on the time they've been there, it's a company that's going to have a lot of issues. No one deserves to move up in a company because they vested time. I believe you can vest equity based on time and merit, but not promotions. So I'm anti-hourly. I'm anti-tenure. I just am. It doesn't work. And I can give you 1,000 use cases for that.
This is Henry Lopez, briefly pausing this episode to invite you to schedule a free coaching consultation with me. I welcome the opportunity to chat with you about your business plans and offer the guidance and accountability that we all need to achieve success. As an experienced small business owner myself, I understand the challenges you're experiencing, and often it's about helping you ask the right questions to help you make progress towards achieving your goals. Whether it's getting started with your first business or growing and maybe exiting your existing small business, I can help you get there. To find out more about my business coaching services and to schedule your free coaching consultation, please visit thehowofbusiness.com. Take that next step today towards finally realizing your business ownership dreams. I look forward to speaking with you soon. So let's explore that for a moment, because obviously then you have employees who may come to you with that mentality, or that's what they observed. Maybe, you know, their parents were in environments where it was the case. How do you balance that? How is it that you attract people then that don't want that either? What is it that you give them instead?
Usually, so I'm a big fan of keeping track, keeping score. I always equate things to sports, and I've learned how to play a lot of sports, lots of games. And there's always a scoreboard, which are your KPIs. So I've been very, very visibly, I put externally, I show, we got open book management. We talk about our revenue. Most of the company knows about our profit, maybe not every CSR, but I don't hide it.
Yeah.
You know, people say this kind of, they got this thing about them, this stigma that says no one can know how much money I'm making.
Right.
I'm like, everybody gets to know how the company's doing. You want to work for a company that's growing, that's expanding, that's greenfield growing, that's buying companies that you get an opportunity to move up with positions that don't even exist yet. We need to be profitable. And we explained the importance of profit. And by the way, I had a lot of delayed gratification. I did not divest my business right away, like most people do, because I knew I deserved nice things, but I was the last one. After every new technician and every single installer had a new truck, I finally bought my first new truck. And I leased it, really. I mean, it was a lease because everything's on a lease to own after 5 years, because there's all kinds of accelerated depreciation and really cool things that come with that. But, I asked people, would you rather have a guarantee of $80,000 a year or a bonus structure that allowed you to make 140? Most people are making 90 plus. Or would you rather take the 80? And a loser says, well, we've got a lot of fixed bills. I'd rather, I don't like to take risks, and I don't like to bet on myself, is what I hear. Yeah. So I'd rather take the guarantee. And that's like saying, listen, would you rather have a winning season or win the World Cup? And, it's like, for me, I want everything.
Yeah, no, but it could be that person just doesn't have the confidence in themselves, has never been instilled in them. But anyway, that person, that mentality, that's not a fit for your organization, at least.
If you want to find somebody to fix people, go to Starbucks, because that's not me. I don't have enough time. I could take a winner and teach them our industry, but I'm not saying, hey, listen, I'm not like that woman that gets in a marriage that says, maybe I'll change them over the next 5 years. I say this. That sounds messed up, but I say, listen, you've got what it takes. You're smiling all the time. You're funny. You can think on your feet. You're a positive thinker. You focus on the good. You shake my hand and you mean it. I'm a better recruiter than I am a leader. I'm a better recruiter than I am a manager. I'm a better recruiter than I am a founder. I've stacked the deck. And when you get the right people, I think Steve Jobs said this, is like, they kind of figure out where you're going. Like they know more than you. Like, I've painted the vision, but my vision is so bigger than anybody's ever even thought of in the home service. They're like, how do you get A1 to 15 billion? Well, it's pretty easy. Within the next 5 years, we get it to 500 million of EBITDA. We go public, we get a 30X, that's 15 billion. Well, how do you get that? Well, you reverse engineer. It's a simple math equation. You take 500 million of EBITDA at a 25%, and you run that through and say, here's how many calls I would need based on this conversion rate, this booking rate, and this cost per lead. And then you understand you got to nail it and scale it. And, all these numbers are graphed and they're built into a budget. And then how do you get exponential growth? There's only 3 ways to make more money. You get more customers, you charge your customers more money, you keep them coming back more frequently. I have 80,000 service agreements. That has to do with frequency. I'm going into other things like garage storage, front doors, possibly even water purification. That raises my average ticket dramatically. And then how do you get new clients? I mean, there's really, we run 20,000 brand new clients a month. So, and I'm just getting started. I mean, I'm bringing on new lead sources that no one's ever heard of or thought of before. I think affiliate marketing, once that turns on like the full lever of affiliate marketing and influencer marketing, it'll take over everything else combined.
Tommy, to scale like you are describing and like you've done, do I have to get sources of funding outside, or can it be done organically? Meaning bootstrapping, or do I need to go get money at some point to scale like you're describing?
if you understood that a business is an asset and you really understood that 2 + 2 = 20 in this case, you would be better off. First, you would switch from cash to accrual accounting when you hit a certain size.
Mhm.
Then you'd get audited financials, and then you'd get what's called a delayed draw term loan, and you'd max out, find as much SBA money and grant money that you can.
Right.
And then there will become a time where I came to this crossroads that I was going to run out of money versus what I had opportunities for.
Sure.
I just couldn't. They had what's called a seasoning period for 90 days before I could buy another business. And so, yes, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get there without money, but I don't recommend money early on because those mistakes, when I kept saying I was falling down,
they get
it would have been-
amplified, right?
they're big mistakes. So until you've got a winning formula that's repeatable and you can rinse and repeat, you don't use leverage. But leverage is an amazing thing because now I've got, I knew I got a blank checkbook to go buy businesses at the right multiple. And I know by turning these dials, I know we could almost predict within 5% what we could turn the company into in 6 months.
Mhm. Leverage is one of those topics that a lot of people don't understand, Tommy, because we come to it with our personal finance philosophy, which is debt is bad, right? And so that's partly why I was asking this question.
Debt is not bad. It's called OPM, other people's money. And is debt bad when you buy a house? Is debt bad when I bought the 2 commercial buildings? Is debt bad when I bought the apartments that have tripled? And this is what I tell clients. Did you borrow the money to buy this house? Do you have a mortgage? Of course. Wouldn't you think you want to protect your investment by using financing? And I don't call it financing. I call it our promotion because we got to pay a dealer's fee to even offer it. So it truly is a promotion. But, and the technology I've leveraged, this is why I feel like I'm 10 moves ahead in chess and people are just reading the instructions on how to play checkers. Because very soon, and in this world of AI and machine learning and business intelligence, no one, I truly believe that I'll have a monopoly and I'm probably going to get broken up.
So if in markets where you dominate, why should I enter the space as a competitor?
Well, the best reason to enter the space is because I'll probably buy you if you build something decent.
So there is opportunity there, even in markets where you dominate.
To say that it would be I'm still a humble guy. I mean, to say that I got it all figured out, like someone could figure out a way to just work with builders in a better way, but I'm working on a way to dominate that. So I know the CRO of Angie's List. We're working on getting all their leads instead of just some of their leads. I know the #1 woman in the country that rocks out Pinterest. And you would say Pinterest for garage doors? Well, if you master one thing and you're just so much better than everybody else, I understand pay for performance. So I'm in all the newspapers for free. And then I give them a percentage because I got really good attribution models. But I look at something and I go, someone's mastered this. And usually I can figure out who it is by doing searches, seeing who's at the top with the most reviews that's getting the most calls. And then I just call them up. And typically they'll share their success because I make them feel really good about it. And I buy them lunch and I read their books and I give them as much advice as I possibly can because I'm not afraid of what they're going to use it for. Because even if you know everything, I think if I told you how to get a 6-pack and I said, you need 7.5 hours of sleep, you need to drink a gallon of water a day, you need to be on a calorie deficiency, you need to make sure your workouts, you're sweating, and I could go into your macros, very few people will do the work. So I've been an open book.
So, but okay, but so to close out on that point, you part of what you do now is you help others get into this space, right? Into the home services industry.
Not necessarily get into it. What I do is I'd rather take what they have and turn some dials and make them a lot.
And that's what you were talking about with working with the A players. So what you're looking for are those people who are in it and are doing well, and now with your help, they can take it to the next level.
Yeah, because most businesses, they're sitting on a gold mine. They just don't know their next 5 moves. They don't understand, like, I tweak this, I tweak that. I change one thing, and all of a sudden they're kicking out 20% a year. And then I go and I say, is this rinse and repeat model. And the hardest part is the people. But I've learned a lot is that people need manuals and SOPs, and they want scorecards, and they want to know where they're at. And so the model works for dentist office. It works for doctors. It works for chiropractors. It works for movie theaters. It works for bowling alleys. It works for restaurants. My model, I could go anywhere in the world with capitalism. That's not like you're only going to buy from the government. And I can make this model work because people want to feel involved. Culture is a big word and people talk about it, but I think I deliver. I got a lot of work to do. I'm a work in progress, but I do care. I want my people to win. I care if they live in an apartment. I want them to buy a house. I care that they become better at financing. A lot of people, if you can't save money at $40,000 a year, you're never going to save money at $100,000. So they're not fixing the root of the problem. People, they all say they want more money, but what they really need is an education on what to do with the money and how to save it. Michael McKellowitz, profit first. Getting the profit first for employees is something we're building right now.
That's great. That's great. Okay, let's take kind of a step back. Why the home services industry? You stumbled into it, but now you continue to invest in it. What is it about this industry that's so appealing to you?
Well, I didn't have this when I started. It just so happens I was very patient and COVID happened, and we were deemed essential. As every movie theater, nail salon, and a hotel shut down, they told us, we need you. No one can get stuck in a garage and be stuck if they need to go to the emergency room. No one could have a leaky pipe blowing up. So you guys are essential. The blue collar, it's our turn. I'd like to tell you I'm just the most skilled home service guy, but a lot of it was luck, being at the right place at the right time. And I don't know why it seems like I'm always at the right place at the right time. The home service industry, I started to watch HVAC guys and I see them in their private jets. Then I see another guy buy a private jet. Then I see another guy buy a mansion. And then I'm like, man, maybe I should go learn from these guys. So I spent years traveling and seeing their shop and asking them questions and bringing in an empty spiral notebook and taking notes and implementing. And they said, you're just a young garage door guy. We'll help you out. We'd love it. And I genuinely wanted to listen to them. And I wanted to tell them how great they were because I was super impressed. And it's not even the fact just of the money. It was like the way the business felt when you walked in, the productivity, the people that were winning around them, the people that they walk in and they respected the brand. Yeah. And that was very, very appealing to me. So rather than sitting on my ass and waiting for somebody to come along and teach me, I flew out to them and asked them the questions and begged them to mentor me, and they did.
So there was an opportunity there, but today you've got this, it ends up being an essential business. That means that there's a steady demand that's not going away. That means it's somewhat recession proof, right? All of those things come into play in this space. True?
Yeah, it's demand driven, which all home service businesses are not created equally. Mine are demand driven. If the economy fails, people are still going to get repairs versus new installs.
True.
I could say that it was not a service agreement industry, but it is now. Mm-hmm. So I could kind of build a fence around the client and wait for them to replace it.
Right.
And they'll use us because we've got a better price for them and their loyalty to us. And so it kind of checked all the boxes. I didn't know it was going to when I got into it. 17 years later here, almost 18 years. I was in the right business without even knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you've shared, you took advantage of those experts that you tapped into. One of the challenges across all industry, particularly when I talk to people in the home services industry, is the labor challenge. What do you say to that, and how have you gotten around that, if you will?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to work for most of the people out there that's saying there's a labor shortage. I'd say look in the mirror, take a long look and say, would you want to work for you? Darren Hardy wrote a book called The Compound Effect, where he wrote down 100 things he wanted in a woman. Wrote down every attribute, motherly features, what her hair, what she smelled like, what shape she was in. And he read this list out loud, looked at it for a day, and said, I could never, ever get a woman like this. So he had to write down 100 things he would need to become to get a lady that he described. And when I read that book years and years ago, I wrote down 30 things I would need to become to attract the talent I want, to have them knocking on my door. Not so most people hire. They go to Indeed, Glassdoor, Monster, ZipRecruiter, they go to Craigslist, and they put out an ad in the newspaper, whatever. And they wait for the people to come in, and then they hire them. I go out and I actually recruit. Nick Saban, one of the best football coaches of all times. I said, what's more important to you, talent or is it the mindset? And he said, here's a little secret, Tommy. I'm a great coach, but I'm better at recruiting. So recruiting doesn't mean finding someone without a job and going into the unemployment line. It means finding somebody that's great and having them switch careers. And so this labor shortage, I love millennials. They want to feel involved. They want a little bit of work-life balance. But you got to figure out where their triggers are. What's going to make them try? What's in it for them? Why would they try hard? What are we doing to help them accomplish their dreams? So identifying their dreams, and a lot of times they don't know what their dreams are. You got to peel back the onion and help them define a vision board and help them want more. And actually, I'm trying to get them to change their family trees, to change their bloodline forever, to where if their parents were alcoholics and they treated their kids like crap, their kids are going to think differently. They're going to want more. They're going to want more freedom. They're going to be optimistic. They're going to look at the world as a positive place and say, we are Americans. We live in the United States of America. This is a great spot. We were fortunate. Out of the 9 billion people, we live in one of the best countries, and see there's more choices and options out there. And we won just by being born here. And a lot of people don't think that. A lot of people think this country is a piece of crap. I don't understand it. I'm very, very happy where I live. I'm very happy that my family had an opportunity to come here. And it's the best country because we didn't have a lot growing up. But, because of this country, I'm not trying to get political or anything else here. I'm just saying I'm glad I had an opportunity to be here, because anywhere else, I don't think I would have been where I'm at today.
Sure, I can hear that. How do you fold in, though? How do you execute on that part of it, of helping people develop themselves, in addition to having them deliver, do their job, be out there in the field, to be trained? Is this do you have formal programs in place? How do you execute on this part of it?
Yeah, we got a full-time dream manager. Their job is to help people dream bigger. And, they did a Harvard study, and 3% of people write down their goals are 25 times more likely to accomplish those goals. We've always heard write down those goals, but manifesting those goals, take it to the next level. Reverse engineering what needs to happen at work and at home to accomplish these dreams and these goals. Not all of it needs to be monetary. Some of it's got to be time. Some of it's got to be taking care of yourself. I always talk about this, but when a stewardess in a flight says she's doing her seatbelt thing, she says the mask will drop down, take care of yourself before you could help. You can't help your kids if you're not getting oxygen. And I think a lot of people, they need to learn to love themselves. And when you that's where it starts. Somebody walks into a training center, very, very unhappy with themselves. They look down, they don't smile, their teeth is not right. My number one goal is to get them in a position where they love themselves and they actually feel confident. And man, if you could change that piece where they're thinking optimistically, they're proud of themselves, they want more, they're proud of the people because they see that they're a role model for everybody around them. But I don't want to take people that just, they got to want it. They got to take the steps, but it's up to me to help build that. Like, I want you to start by saying, I've got a problem. I mean, I've never been through a 12-step process, but the first thing I believe is you got to admit there's a problem. You're not optimistic. You're poisoning yourself every day with the food you're taking. You're not going on walks. You don't go out to Mother Nature. And if you could make people love themselves and dream bigger. So in the book Elevator, I said, build a dream so big as the visionary that everybody's dream fits inside. And that's what I needed to do. I needed to have a dream so big and build leaders and instill competition and have people say, I need the same coaching and motivation at home that I have at my workplace. Because if you get both of those, you're almost unstoppable.
Yeah. Okay, let's say I come to you and I say, I want to start a garage door repair business here where I live in St. Lucie, Florida. Haven't done it before, starting from scratch. Would you say to me, move on to something else, or come to the Freedom event? Or what advice would you give me if I was going to start a business?
Well, I would say this. I say, people ask me if I started over again, what would I have done? I'd said, there's as much competition. There's 400 garage door companies in Phoenix.
I mean, the barrier
So
to
everybody
entry is
says-
low, right? I mean, for that startup one
Barriers of
person.
entry is low, and the average ticket is super low in comparison. The only thing cheaper than garage doors is like window washing and concrete cleaning. So I would say, if I could go back in time, I worked just as hard to get a client in roofing or HVAC or flooring with an average ticket 10 times, 15 times. And they say, but all the competition in private equity in these industries, why are they in that industry? I'll beat them at marketing. I'll beat them at hiring. I'm just so deep into this thing that I've already got it on lock. It's rinse and repeat. It's nail and scale.
Sure.
So I would say you could build a business like I did. Absolutely. But if you really wanted to build a business, let's put it this way, I'd already be worth $4 billion if I was in HVAC. And people say, well, the competition is different. I know all the competition. They know me. They don't stand a chance. They can't get leads. They can't hire. They don't care. They would not win against me. And I'm a competitive SOB. And I know that's kind of cocky. But the fact is, I think I could beat them. And I think I could beat anybody. You give me, because I'm going to go to the number one person in the world. Like that's the secret. I go to the coaches that have a tried and true. They've been where I want to go, and I pay them. I mean, I just hired a coach for $300,000 a year for 1 hour a month. That's one of my 5 coaches. How does somebody compete with somebody that's desire to win is so strong, and they're going to the best? Like, so going back to your question is, you can make it in the garage doors, and I'll help you make it in the garage doors. And at the end of the day, if you want to do that, just know that it's going to be 5 years of sweat equity. It's going to be nights, weekends, and holidays. It's going to be giving up relationships. It's going to be becoming a bad parent, not intentionally, but it just happens. And you'll never be present. You know, you're going to have to learn a lot. And all I would say is, if you're going to do this, you could work on one HVAC unit for every 15 garage doors.
Got it. Understood. All right. The Freedom events, one of the things you've got coming up, that's coming up in September, correct?
September 25th through the 27th, I got Jocko Willick. Darius Livers is probably one of the best home service guys I've ever met. He's been on my stages. Sebastian, we're going to learn all about AI and how it's changing the home service game. Steve Sims, man, this guy wrote Bluefishing and Go for Dumb, Go for Stupid. He's brilliant. Yeah. He's the great connector. Keith Mercurio. I mean, Alan Rohr is the best finance person who's been in the plumbing industry that understands. She wrote a book called Where Did the Money Go? The vendors that are going to be there are tried and true. And my events are not all motivational. They're a lot to do with tactics and things you could do. Like, I've been talking a lot about my buddy's company, Pin Parrot. It's pinparrot.com, Parrot. He started working on my Google accounts. I'm getting 5 times the calls. Dan Antonelli's going to be there. I branded with him when I was 30 million. I instantly tripled because I was branded correctly. You look at Rilla Voice with the AI. My technicians have more data now to close deals than any other garage door company. Chirp, the automations. Now, instead of getting a client and losing them, or not booking a phone call or an abandoned phone call, Chirp fixes all of that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the technology stack we use and how we recruit and how we train. It's a big deal. And then the people that come to this, you're going to start figuring out why you should take care of your body, because everybody says, yeah, one day when I get the time, I'll work out. One day I'll go for a walk. One day I'll start making those little choices. And I'm not going to reprimand people. I'm just going to ask them to show up with an open mind. And I'm going to call some people on the stage that were at the last event. There will probably be 50 people there that have lost 50 pounds plus. It's just a little tweak in their mindset, and they're smiling again, and they're optimistic. So all I promise is, if you're not even in the home service space, but you own a business, this will be one of the best events you've ever been to, for sure.
Got it. All right. What's one thing you want to take away from? We'll stay focused in the home services industry and the conversation that we've had. What would be one takeaway that you want us to take from this conversation?
I'm going to give 2. Number 1 is I can't fix a business or a team or anything without knowing KPIs, like down to the T. Like I can't fix somebody. I can't get you healthy without knowing the sleep and the macros and the steps you're taking a day. I can't fix a business without knowing your booking rate, your conversion rate, your average ticket, your cost per lead. Like if we don't know your numbers, I need to figure out when I go into a business how to get the right KPIs. So if you don't know your numbers, they always say know your numbers, but you got to know them like the back of your hand.
Right.
And you got to got good people to like your financials should be coming out on the 5th, not the 15th. And you should have that. Like I know I get a report every 3 days of where we're at. Like a 25-page report, not like a 1-pager. Number 2 is I'm going to go back to this idea of success leaves clues. If you want to get to the top of Angie's List, Yelp, Google, if you want to see who's hiring, find the number 1 company hiring the most A+ players. Like, for example, Enterprise is known for hiring great people. Find somebody on there and connect with them and ask them. If you want to know how to sell better product mixes that are way more profitable, ask your manufacturer who develops your products, who's got the best product mix, buy them dinner, buy them lunch, tell them you're only going to take an hour of their time, make it what's in it for them, and just ask. ASK. You want to do anything in life, find somebody. You want to become a better father? Go find somebody with kids that show up to their house for dinner and they sit down and they pray and they put their hands behind their back and they say, yes, sir. And they're smiling a lot and they're obedient. They're not on their cell phones all day. Like, you don't have to read. I'm a big reader, but you just look around and you'll see, wow, that's success. That's what success looks like. Unfortunately, 9 out of 10 people that say they've done something, they go into teaching because they didn't make it in the real world. You got to find the 10%ers, the people that have already gone where you want to go, that have a track record. I'm on the top of Google on organic. So you could follow me because I've proven I know the algorithm and I know how to get there, or I'm using a good vendor to get me there and I'll share it with you. So I would say get yourself out of the everyday grind and go learn and people love to share their story. They're successful. They pay it forward. They're going to help you. All you have to do is ask, and it's all around you. And you go to the number 1 restaurant in your market that's $200 for a steak dinner. Ask them how they recruit the best people from 4 Seasons. They'll tell you. Have you ever thought about asking? And that's the best 3 letters in the world is ASK. And every once in a while you'll get a no.
You were younger, Tommy, when you were younger, did you have this mentality or did it take you some time to develop it? In other words, when I was that age younger, I was arrogant and thought, I'll figure it out on my own. It took me a while to figure out that I got to get help, that I got to learn from others. Do you think you always had that personality?
I think I did, but it wasn't intentional. I didn't intentionally. I kind of stumbled upon things, but now I'm super intentional by who I'm asking with a proven track record, because there's a lot of people that'll misguide you and you'll go backwards years. So now I'm very I want to work out with a trainer that looks how I want to look.
Right.
If it's a physical trainer, I want to hang out with somebody that's teaching Google that's already on the top of Google with a lot of their clients. I want to hang out with people I'm not going to read a book on fatherhood when I become a dad. I'm going to go to my 3 buddies that have the kids that are perfect. I mean, no one's perfect, but you know what I mean.
Understood. All right, tell me where you want us to go online to learn more. What's the best place to go?
Yeah, so this is really cool, and I really, really enjoy this. I don't charge for this. It's Tommy Mello, no W, TommyMello.com/shop. If you guys ever anybody wants to come out, they want to see our training center. I do a lot of, I answer everybody's questions. We talk about performance pay, talk about recruiting, TommyMello.com/shop. And I got a newsletter. It's about 20 pages a month. The first few are free. I promise you I lose money on the newsletter. It's TommyMello.com/news. And I've got a free Facebook page, and there's probably 25 questions a day and 100 people responding. It's the Home Service Expert. That's my podcast, and that's our Facebook page. And it's literally a resource that, I do the podcast because I get smarter people than me, and I ask them a bunch of questions, and it's become a source of answers for me. It's been my own type of, it's how I get my mentorships.
Of course.
is through the podcast. And that's, typically, when I do podcasts, that's how I find the people I want to work with is they dazzle me. They've got a proven track record, and then I just hire them.
Yeah. That makes sense. Same thing for me. That's one of the things the podcast has done for me. I've been podcasting since 2016. But Tommy, thanks for investing the time to be with me today and sharing so freely of your past and experiences and everything that you have to offer. Thanks for taking the time to be with me today.
Pleasure to be with you. Thanks for listening.
This is Henry Lopez. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The How of Business. My guest today is Tommy Mello. I release new episodes every Monday morning. You can find the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, including at my YouTube channel, the How of Business YouTube channel, and my website, thehowofbusiness.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to The How of Business. For more information about our coaching programs, online courses, show notes pages, links, and other resources, please visit thehowofbusiness.com.